Hello everyone, welcome to episode 0 of the Jubilee Times Open Seminar. Who are we? Today, you'll be getting to know some of the hosts, our intentions in starting the podcast, and what you can expect from us in the future. To start, we can go around and each do an introduction, a bit about who we are, our backgrounds, our positions within the podcast, and a fun fact that someone wouldn't be able to guess just from looking at you.
Hi, my name is Ivanae Jennings. I'm a third-year economics student. I'm from the Turks and Caicos Islands. And a fun fact about myself is I like to collect figurines.
All right. Hi, my name is Stanislas Ulysse. I'm French, American, and Chilean, and I study business and management. And a fun fact about me is that I like to play the guitar.
Wait, how long have you been playing?
Like 2.5 years now.
Okay. How long have you been playing the guitar?
Well, since I was born.
Oh, okay.
I was born with the guitar fingers.
Okay.
Lord, give me the strength. Hi, my name is Johnpaul Onyeama. I'm a third-year BSc economics student. I'm from Nigeria. And fun fact you know about me. You know what? I'm very talented. I'm the best. Thank you. Yeah.
Talented at what?
At everything.
How were your
Everything I want
grades
to do.
last term?
My grades were spectacular.
Amen.
How are yours?
They're pretty good.
Exactly. All our grades they were good.
All right, sorry, what about you?
Okay, hi, my name is Soreya Happi. I'm from London. And a fun fact about me is that I like to read comic books.
Really?
What comic books?
100%.
Webtoons?
Manhwa or comic
Webtoons.
books?
But it's technically cool. It's Korean comic books and about like superheroes. I love it.
I'm surprised.
Really?
Didn't know this.
No, I thought she was more of a manhwa person.
Well, she's reading digital ones.
Oh, that's actually new. So shocking.
All right, do we want to move on from that? Let's
Okay,
move
yeah.
on.
Great. So now that we know a bit about each other, should we dive a bit more about what this podcast is really about? So for me, I believe that our podcast is a platform for students to really be unfiltered and like exploring their passions both in economics and within general student life. And that hopefully through doing this, they can kind of challenge the traditional expert-student dynamics and instead lay the groundwork for more productive thinking. So to turn the question back to you guys, what do you think is the core purpose of our podcast and what long-term impact would you like the podcast to have?
Well, initially when I started the podcast, I was just thinking about it more of like a recreational activity, more of a casual thing to get myself busy, get myself out there. But with time, I think I grew to understand the deeper purpose of the podcast, which is to put ourselves out there, to put the voices of the students out there. I think that was for me the purpose or the meaning of the podcast. I think long-term goal or long-term aim is just for it. I think for me, the long-term goal is to make it be carried over. So like after we're done, because we're all in our final year, third year, I feel like I want the second years, the first years to carry it over, something that becomes more of a culture. So people are free to speak about economic activities, life, whatever they want to talk about that relates to the podcast aim eventually in the future. So it's a comfortable environment whereby we see our lecturers, whoever we bring on the podcast as an equal pair and not like more of a teacher or a mentor, something that's like we're all on the same playing field. Want to come on this stage, we're all equal people learning from each other on certain topics and situations. So that is what I think this podcast is all about to me.
I think I can definitely relate to the idea of starting it more recreationally than becoming more engaged as it goes on. Because I remember when I first was like, okay, let's do the podcast, I was more like, ooh, like this is something new, this is something fun. When we first filmed our initial episodes on international students, which you guys will never see because it was not that good.
It shall never see daylight.
Was it because of the audio quality or was it because of
yes.
It was a toaster.
Guys, just know that to get to where we are right now, we've done a lot of work. But yeah, with that first episode, I was like, wow, like we've had such a productive conversation. That's amazing how we've been able to sit down and create that. So yeah, I can definitely understand that.
I will say I agree with Johnpaul on the point of the podcast is something that
JP? What happened to JP?
So formal, Johnpaul.
I will say that I do agree with JP because I believe that the podcast is something that will provide a different perspective for young students. I know at this point in time, we've recorded one episode, and we've attempted to record 2 other episodes. And listening back on those episodes, I think that they were quite nice, hearing what other people had to say. We spoke to one of our professors about student life, and he gave us good advice and a nice perspective. We also spoke with other students who will be here for future episodes about what it's like being an international student. And yeah, I just think that this podcast is something that will provide a fresh and different perspective.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of everything. I think for me, it's we talked about this with Rashad on an episode that you guys will eventually see, and it's what you were saying as well.
No, you drop in a sneak peek.
It's we have like you have like the difference between vertical relationships and horizontal relationships, and the idea is a lot of the times in like corporations and businesses, like top to bottom, you'll have very vertical relationships where it's almost like somebody's talking down to you. But what's quite interesting with these formats is that like no matter the guest we have on, whether it be a very well like acclaimed professor or just another student, at the end of the day it's all these like horizontal relationships where there's equal amounts of respect, and it's kind of taking away what we can from other people's perspectives, no matter what they've been through, because at the end of the day we're all completely different individuals. No 2 people are the same, so you're always going to receive a slightly different perspective to the way you see things, if not one that's radically different. And I think it's really interesting to look at it that way, and it's also kind of nice to take the time to converse about these things, because at the end of the day we're all people. We know each other to some extent on a social context, but here it's more of we're talking about, I don't want to say serious issues, but we're talking about things in a more like formal and productive manner that kind of give us just different ways of looking at life, whether it be us as students within the business school or outside, or just our lives in general, but kind of just developing an understanding of how every other person looks, at least on the podcast. So I think that's quite interesting.
To be fair, now I think about it, remember that the unreleased episode that will never be released, you were a guest there, and now you're now a member of the team. So it shows that there is definitely some form of joy or some things to be learned from the podcast that makes people, let me actually try this long term. It's fun, I think.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
With the idea of like vertical and horizontal relationships, I feel like that was so true, because we've both been in Rashad's seminar, and I feel like just the general structure of a classroom where it's like, okay, a bunch of students sitting down, then one person like speaking to the class, even though it's not as strict as like a lecture, there is still that kind of rigidness of, okay, I'm learning from them. Like they are teaching me rather than like we're here trying to build something and learn together. So then having him here, even though I wasn't in the conversation, like having him here in the room, the vibe felt completely different. I felt like, okay, we have a topic, or we have a problem, we're solving it together, or so it was quite.
Yeah, it felt less of a lecture, like what I'm trying to say. It felt less of a lecture and more of a conversation, a discussion, like get to know the world from my lens, kind of thing. Like we're taking down a situation, we're talking about it together. Because there's some things that Rashad said that I was like, oh really? Like I wouldn't have known that maybe he was like a very, very much family person, because if he spoke about his family a lot, and he wouldn't speak about this in the lectures, maybe because it wasn't more in place for him to be talking about things like that in the lectures. But then from this, I got to know him a bit better, which is also one of the reasons for this podcast. I want to know people a bit better, and behind all the formalities, who are you? Who truly are you, and what are your opinions on certain situations?
I think it comes back to what you're saying about how it's a more intimate setting, and it works quite well in that respect. So I think that in this case, what's interesting is that we're kind of approaching. I think you guys were saying after the episode we shot with Rashad, you guys were like, oh, you were talking to him like he was your friend, and I think at the end of the day, it's the best. I've been reading a book recently. They talk a lot about like different forms of education. This guy's struggling working with kids, and I think in education, it's best kind of to treat the person as a friend, as somebody you respect off the bat, as opposed to like, oh, he's a student or they're a student, they have to gain my respect. So I think what's also interesting regarding that is like, I think at uni with the professors I've had, the ones that I feel like I learn the most from are the ones that genuinely show respect off the bat. That's not something that has to be earned. It's like, it's not that they're a superior, it's there's somebody who's trying to gain knowledge from you while sharing their knowledge as well. And I think that's what's really interesting and particular about this podcast, is that it is quite open. We're having these pretty open conversations, even with Rashad, who felt comfortable enough to talk about his family and everything. And I think that's a very good reflection on it and on what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think just the general idea that, like, you know, we can give respect to anyone because everyone has something you can learn from is so true, because everyone has lived a life and life is not easy. So, like, just having these conversations where you bring on a bunch of people, you can take a piece from anyone.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Especially because we come from such diverse backgrounds.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, the life I lived is not the life you lived.
Exactly.
No, it's not.
Because the thing was that, because I remember I was talking to Soreya about this, like, we have very similar answers, but then the way we go about it is so different. Like, even you, Ivy, even you, Stan, like, the way we go about things is so different, but we might have the same outcome. And the beauty of all this kind of conversation is that we get to explore this type of things. I was like, oh really? You do this way? Interesting. It's funny.
Especially because I actually only just realized this. None of us who are a part of the podcast grew up in the same country.
That is true.
None of us. Like, we've all lived completely
different
lives.
Yeah, very different contexts. I think is quite cool as well, because it's like, I was talking to a friend about this the other day, about how it's really important to be able to like crystallize certain ideas, and by that it's like kind of bring things together, assimilate them, and like learn from each other. And what's cool is that by talking about these topics that we're discussing from very different perspectives, we are in a way kind of crystallizing an idea in our mind. It's a repetition, but in a very different way. So we're kind of adding, you know, thoughts and different perspectives on everything. At the end of the day, it's like you have a lot more of a clear idea on the topic we discuss after we've discussed it, and it just gives you, I want to say, a better idea, but a very broad idea, more holistic, because once again, we all have different backgrounds and very different ways of thinking.
Okay, so to kind of move on from this, are there any particular topics or conversations you guys are excited to have, or if not, any people you guys want to have on the show?
Okay, for me, we've already recorded an episode with the person that I really wanted on the show.
Really? That was Rashad?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she said it. She said it before. Like, I want Rashad. If we go back to that clip that'll never come out, back to that. Ivy said it, like, I really want Rashad on the podcast.
I definitely didn't say by name, but I did. Maybe I did say it by name, but I did mention wanting him on the podcast.
Can I ask why? That's such like a random... I don't know.
He was my favorite professor.
Aww.
He was I feel like I'm very bad at going to lectures, but I feel like I went to his seminars the most.
I feel like he is a very supportive teacher. Like, he will encourage everyone to chip in.
No, I think that's such a beautiful thing, though, the fact, because you do have a lot of professors or lecturers, I don't know what they're called most of the time, but let's say like tutors and everything, and it's like, it's not like the most inviting to speak in their classes, maybe because they don't know too well, or because they just don't care enough to create that kind of environment. I feel like with him, I could definitely see that being a case. And I've had some professors as well. I had a negotiations professor last term who was very much like, she wanted people to be engaged. She would get people who would come in late to always sit at the front to make sure that they'd be more engaged. It was like terrifying for them, but she was so like kind and so respectful and really wanted people to engage in any way that they could. Because at the end of the day, like, not everybody's going to engage in the same way. Not everybody's as extroverted, but I think it's really important in these classes for people to have more of an opportunity to engage themselves, no matter how introverted or extroverted they are. And everybody has a different way of going about that, I think. Yeah.
I think for me, I actually don't know it's not a specific person I want on the podcast, but just a certain demographic. I realized that lots of faculty members are interested in this podcast. Surprisingly, I thought initially that it would be younger people that might be interested in the podcast series. Like
Psych.
Yeah, honestly, psych.
I think we do get a lot of young people being like, oh, what are they doing?
Yeah,
but
like,
I think they're a bit less eager to be like, to actually ask and take that step forward.
But we've talked about this though. I think it's because we like our generation is so anti like socializing to an extent. You know, I don't know who I think I talked to Matt about this. Actually, this is somebody I want.
Spoken to all of us about this, I think.
Yeah, no, I spoke to Matt about this a few days ago, and he was saying that like it's just everything are these like. Most people probably interact more online than they do in person. Like, and you see people like in Eat Central sometimes, they might be at the same table, they might not even be speaking to each other. Like, people aren't really, I think our age aren't huge on like socializing and coming onto a podcast with 4 or 5 people you've never spoken to before and just like being here. I think it can be probably quite intimidating for certain people, especially with...
That includes yourself?
Anyways, especially for people with social anxiety and things like that, it's very much out of people's comfort zones because we also talk about this with Rashad. Like, people don't really speak up in classes right now. Me as a business student, there's just not a lot of people who do, and it's unfortunate because everybody has ideas that can be that are valid to everybody else because they're always gonna be unique and different. It's always gonna be a different approach, even if it's not exactly what we're looking for. And so in any case, I think it would be cool to get some students on here for sure. But I'm also not surprised that faculty members are interested in it because it's probably nice to see for a change that students aren't just engaged in classes, that they're making the effort outside of their classes to talk about things that come from the classroom or talk about the experience of being at university, which is something they obviously must be very invested in because they're literally working here, you know? So for them, it kind of makes sense because a lot of students, I don't know, I feel like a lot of UK students, especially like English students, they come to uni because it's like, I guess it's like a rite of passage, you know? So they're just like, oh, I'm just going to do this because, you know, this is students in general, but UK students especially, like, they'll come, they don't really know what bachelor's they want to do, and they just kind of do it. And so they just kind of go through uni, but they're not really necessarily trying to pick up something new. You know, generally, I feel like that's a lot of the time that's the case, just in our environments. And so then for faculty members, especially now with like COVID and how that changed social dynamics, I think it's probably quite exciting for them and thrilling to see that you have students who are engaged to the point where we're going out of our way, we're putting all this effort in. Just for you guys to know, it takes us like a good like 2 hours to set up these podcasts before we actually shoot them, just for anybody watching. I feel like it'd be interesting because it's true, but with the microphone setups, like the camera, the lighting, making sure that we're all here, making sure the mics are all working, because we're using 4 mics at a time. It's a lot of time that we're putting into it, and so I'm sure faculty appreciates that.
Yeah. And even our peers, they're all interested in it because of even looking at them like, oh wow, you guys set this up. Oh wow, you did this yourself. Oh wow. So I feel actually good job, guys. We did our best for it. I can't lie. We tried.
Yeah. I also feel like something that I've noticed is the room that we record in, the doors are clear. Everyone can see into it. And you can tell everyone is so interested in this, but they just don't want to come up to us and ask.
Or just disturb us because of they think that we might be recording at that moment. So
we are recording right now, to be fair.
Yeah. True. It would be very annoying if someone just came up and banged on the door.
No, I think this clear door thing has been like a good marketing tactic because I've seen so many people, I'm like, oh, I want to get you on next.
Yeah. And they're probably like, what's going on in there? Like, you see like 4 microphones set up. It's like, what are these kids doing? You know, because we're all pretty young. Well, I'm kind of old, but in any case, it's I think it's gonna be quite interesting to see how it turns out. See who wants to be on it. I would want I think Mateos to be on it, who's also a finalist, a business management student, and he's like nerdy to the point where like he'll go to like classes that aren't his. So he'll just go to like other people's classes and just like pick up.
Who are you calling a nerd?
I mean, I'm a big nerd as well. Like, I mean, I am here after all. We're all technically nerds. Yeah. So, but in any case, I think it'd be interesting to have him on because he also has like a very, very different perspective, and he has some views that I respect so much, but that I'm like, wow, like how do you even come up with that? And those are so interesting, but that's also where it's just interesting to hear people's thoughts because you're never going to understand their views if you never really hear their thoughts, and then people don't speak out that much. So it's like, I think this podcast is a really good place for that.
So I do want to ask you a bit more because like you've spoken, I think, about Matt before and like how you really want to get him on. I really want to know like what do you want to talk to him about? Like, is it more interpersonal, like his view on life, or his view of his careers? Like,
I think it's his view of the university experience, because we've talked about it quite a lot. We're both like going on a pretty similar university path, at least. We both went for a semester abroad to Vienna together. Like we've been through some things together, and it's very interesting because we're still like very, very different people, just with a lot of respect for each other. And I think he's someone who really is quite passionate about everything he does. Like he's the type of person where he might not love the class that he's in, but he'll really put the work in and he'll find a way to make it interesting. So he has I feel like he has a very optimistic way of looking at things, no matter how like difficult or grim they might be. And he's always putting as much effort as he needs to and more, because like he just has a very mature way of looking at life, I feel like, you know. We have different priorities, which we've discussed as well. He prioritizes academia quite a lot. I do, but like not to the same extent. But he's just someone where I feel like his perspective for all of us would be so interesting to kind of dissect and look into, because it's very, I don't know, for me, it's just very, very different from mine, but it's so interesting to see it. And he's quite articulate when he speaks about it. He's he's quite an inspiring person to be around. So he's just somebody I would want to have around, because it'd be very interesting to hear him talk on this and see what kind of perspective he can offer.
Fair enough. Well, actually, what about you? You haven't mentioned anyone, yeah.
Who would I like to have on the podcast? What conversation? I haven't even thought about this. I think a conversation I would enjoy would maybe be a bit more around... I think I had like quite a challenging experience going from sixth form to university. So I'd like to kind of talk to, I don't know, maybe like an admissions officer or like someone who took an alternative route, kind of talk about how university is becoming... I don't know, like how you talk about people following the motions. I feel like there was a point in my life where I was definitely doing that and I wasn't being quite intentional with my life. And I found it really inspiring when I look on like LinkedIn or something. I see someone who chose to just like go a completely different path, whether it's like a degree apprenticeship or like going straight into work. And because like I think in that aspect we are quite similar. We all chose to go, I think, no, not you actually. We all chose to go like straight from high school to university. Like I want to talk to someone who chose something else.
I didn't do that, actually.
Yeah, no, I said you.
No.
But like you're here now.
Yeah, no.
No, but that's actually a good point. I was actually thinking that because I want to understand the courage to... How did you just say, okay, you know what, I'm not going to university, I want to do an apprenticeship. Okay, apprenticeship is similar, degree apprenticeship is similar enough, but still, at that young age, going into the workforce where you have to work a technically 9 to 5, you have to
talk about it might help if I talk about... Could I talk about my experience?
Of course you can. Like literally, I was supposed to ask you like if I don't even know about the experience. I've worked a 9 to 5 just barely, and I don't know the switch I was flipping. I was slowly becoming a work person. My coffee at 9 a.m. everything was there. It made me run crazy.
Just to add a little bit before you talk, I think to be a bit more specific, is because like right now in my third year, I feel so unsure about what I want to continue to do on. So one of the reasons for me coming to uni was that I had a lot of options if I go to university. So going straight from high school into something, you have to choose and choose wisely, because whatever you choose, you're going to have to stick with, because you don't have many options from there, or from what the world's perspective is. So I guess just that confidence, like you're talking about, to know that this is for you and that you will follow through with it is what I found interesting.
Okay, well, I was a complete wreck. The reason I ended up working, I went to university for 3 months in the Netherlands, but I had a lot of emotional baggage to deal with. And I think we should talk about mental health at some point. I think it'll be a reoccurring theme. I think...
Well-being ambassador.
Yeah. I think as a man, like men's mental health is something that's seriously overlooked. I think we're taught stoicism before we even have the emotions to understand what stoicism is, and which I think is quite dangerous, to be honest with you. So I feel like for me, there was just a lot to unpack. So I got quite depressed when I was at university. I wasn't doing great at all. I went home in November, and the good thing was that I was at uni in the Netherlands. I could get my money back after my last month of housing, and tuition might have been like 500 euros for the year, because originally it would have been 1,000, but then COVID, so they brought it down to half. But basically, I went home and I spoke to my dad about it. I was like, listen, I know I want to do business next year, because I had been doing liberal arts for 3 months, and liberal arts is just like doing high school all over again. I was like, I know I want to do business next year, because I had a business module. I really enjoyed it. I found myself quite passionate in what I was doing. I want to do that next year, and I'm going to work until the end of this year and just like take the time. Like I'm not wasting my time. I'm going to take the time, which was probably hard to believe for both my parents. There's none of their kids that ever dropped out of uni, and they were really terrified. But I was like, I had kind of a chip on my shoulder. I was like, I have to do this for myself. I owe this to myself to like spend this time wisely, because as much as I feel like mental health, like you have to give yourself some space, it's also good to give yourself a structure. Because as much as it's important to like, I want to say dwell on things and things about certain things to a length, there's also a point where it becomes excessive and you have to start moving forward as opposed to staying in the same place. So for me, I went back to Madrid. I applied to every job I could find. I think I was applying to like 20 or 25 jobs a day, just everything I could find. And within a week, I found a job working at a tech company called Sigma AI, which is probably still to this day the worst job I've ever done.
Really?
I was doing transcription with the Google Assistant. So I was basically like, I'd hear like, hey Google, like, I don't know, what's the weather like, for instance? And my job would be to correct the transcription created by the Google AI. And I had to do that 270 times an hour, which is 2,160 times a day, because it's 8 hours in a working day. So over the 6 months I worked there, I did 3 months in English and then 3 months in French, because there was higher demand for French, so they paid better, which is pretty cool. And I had done a total of over 300,000 transcriptions in my time there. And it was terrible because, sorry, what's up?
How was the pay, though?
The pay was, when I was doing English, it was minimum wage. And when
minimum wage there was how
it's
much?
about, let's see, after the tax, it might be...
You got taxed as well?
Yeah, £900 a month. Yeah.
Is that not slavery?
And then when I was doing it in French, it went up to 1,500 euros, but then after tax it was about 1,350. So that's maybe £1,000 a month, 1,050.
Oh no.
And it was so exhausting. They like tracked our every movement basically. You'd go into a clean room to do your work because of like data protection. And if you spent more than, I think it was an hour a day outside of the clean room, like they could track that. And then at that point, if there were over 3, they might fire you. So I had a few problems with that. It was a very exhausting job. I was dealing with panic attacks just about every day. So I had no idea what I was doing. But I kind of was just like, I have to do this for myself. I have to do this for my progress. I have to do this so that it doesn't feel like this year's gone to waste, because I was very much thinking pragmatically. I was like, in the future, like someday, I'm going to be applying for a master's or a job or whatever. And it's like, I don't want there to be a 9-month blank on my resume at the age of 19. Like that's not me. That's not what I'm doing. So for me, it was very much like a survival thing. I was like, I want to do this. I want to go be productive with my time. And I didn't have the structure at the time. I think now I might start doing some more entrepreneuring throughout the summer. But when I was 19, fresh out of high school, dealing with some depression and a lot of anxiety, I was like, I don't have the structure to go and be an entrepreneur and be a consultant. I don't have the experience either. Now I think I might. But so I did that for 6 months. And then this job kind of fell into my lap, which was fortunate, although the job was also terrible. I went to work as a summer camp counselor, working with kids at the YMCA in, Vancouver. It was about 2 hours away from the city. So door to door from my house, it would have been like 25 hours to get there from Madrid all the way to Vancouver, because you have a layover and everything. Really far away, but I had a friend who was going, and the pay was good, but it wasn't. It was good because you're thinking like daily. It was 125 Canadian dollars a day, which is about $95 US dollars, and then euros, not 90 euros, maybe like 75 pounds a day, 72 or 73. And that like daily, I was like, that's not bad, It was like, plus it was 6 days a week. No, you didn't pay for anything while you were there because you were eating at the camp and everything. It was hell on earth. Within the first, it was supposed to be a 12-week summer, I think. Within the first 3 weeks, we lost about 30% of our staff because management was terrible. Everybody, it was quite traumatic for everybody as well, because there was just so much going on. We had so little time to ourselves. We'd sleep in the same cabins as the kids, so we had no time off at night. It was a quite exhausting experience, but at the end of it, I had done 9 months of work, and it was just very, very constructive, because it kind of gave me the whole, like, I want to go, I want to do a degree, I want to do well in that degree, because I don't want to end up doing another job like this. I was like, these jobs were exhausting, but it's because it was like the fresh out of high school, like, I could do this now. I did, and that was basically it. So for me, it was just a very informative experience. It's something I learned a lot through. And I feel like I don't know, it worked in a lot of ways for me. It taught me how to internalize panic attacks, which was kind of terrifying. But overall, it was just, it was a scary experience, but it really put things into perspective. And I think at the end of the day, like, you will go off. I think you'll get a job, like, you'll be okay. I think we're all going to be okay. You might not always love the job, but I don't think you'll be boxed in forever. You know, you could do a job for 6-8 months and be like, okay, this isn't for me. You quit and you find something else, or you find something else while you're thinking about quitting. But I think there's also that perception of like, oh, I don't want to be trapped in this forever. Like, you don't have to be trapped in something forever. You can start applying for other jobs in other not categories, other industries, and kind of work your way from there. But yeah, that was my experience.
There's always a way out.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like it's cool because I can kind of see in you now how like that experience had an effect. Because like the way you were talking about how you were in like, what do you call it, the clean room, and like they were tracking you to the like. Right now, I can never picture you like letting someone have that much control over your life. So it's like, I can tell how the trauma has ingrained in you.
Yeah. No, it's something I learned from, I think, but it was so bad. Like, it wasn't just me, it was for like everybody who worked there. I made 2 close friends there who left after some time. And actually, 6 months after I left, I heard from a friend that within the span of a week, they fired about 500 people.
Wow.
Because it was so cutthroat, but it's also so robotic. Like, it's something that will eventually be replaced by AI if it hasn't been already. Because it's literally, you're working for AI to improve AI, you know? Yeah. But it was horrible. Like, people, it was so restrictive. You couldn't bring your phone into there. You may bring like a bottle of water. You weren't allowed to have any food in there. They restricted access to just about every website. So you could barely listen to music unless you like bypassed Google Podcasts, which of course I did. But like everything was super, super, super restricted. The bosses were either really good, so they'd get promoted, and that was the one I had for the first 3 weeks, and then I wanted to die afterwards because we had another boss who was like constantly micromanaging. There were also like issues with harassment here and there, which wasn't that pleasant. So it was an experience, you know, but it definitely gave me some perspective. It gave me appreciation for what you were saying about the whole 9 to 5. Like, there's some days you just don't want to go to work. You're exhausted. You're fatigued. You're dealing with, I don't know, symptoms of like issues with mental health, with physical health as well. Like, your job could be doing so much, and it is something you're putting so much time in the day in. I mean, it's an 8-hour job, but then there's the commitment of getting there. It might take like 11 hours in your day or more. If you're not lucky, it's a lot of time in your day. So you have to be able to appreciate your job and appreciate that you feel like you're doing something for yourself or maybe your community or whatever's driving you. But something has to drive you past a certain point. It can't just be the money.
All of a sudden, I just had a flashback to my trauma. That whole, what's it called? Double internship period. Oh my God, I'm not even revisiting that. Jesus Christ. Stan, you just opened up. I was like, now I remember what I went through. But the thing is, honestly, if you can survive certain things, it definitely makes you stronger.
Oh, for sure.
My tolerance for so many things has increased just by that. The commitment to, like you said, I had to commit from here to London every day. The train journey, Thames Link. Count your days. They will cancel. You will jump into Gatwick. The train guy will tell you, pay new money. I said, no, I'm not paying any money. They said I should join Thames Link. They said, where's your ticket? It was hectic. 2 hours journey. You have to wake up by 5, 6 a.m. My food must be ready. Go to London, go to the office. There were only three interns there. And then everyone else was just, because they're all finance people. So it was just difficult to communicate with them, to talk to them. And I think even though it was a younger demographic, it was still a weird thing because most people there were still new, trying to find their community. And because of just how I am in nature, normally, the way I am, I try to talk to lots of people, but obviously some were a bit more on, oh, why is he talking to me? But then some were like, oh, the nice one. So it's a bit of a mixed bag when you work in the real world, even though we're technically still in the real world right now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's more of a bubble though, being at university, I feel like, because I mean, we have 9 or 10 hours of class a week. We might have some part-time work on the side, but it's still not, I think where most people won't amass to like the 40 hours you have on paper doing a 9 to 5 job. But in any case, there's definitely like, it's a it's a big switch, you know. I'm looking forward. I mean, I've got a job now part-time, which is nice, and I'm looking forward to eventually starting my job, but I'm also looking forward to, we had talked about like the experience of kind of like going somewhere else, trying something new. That's something I'm really looking forward to once I graduate, because I feel like for me the bachelor's, like, it's starting to feel a bit long. I don't know about you guys, but like me and my course, it's starting to feel like we're kind of repeating the same things in different makeup, because there's only so much you can do in business theory. So I think for me it's like the third year, like I'm getting to my wit's end almost.
Really, like the fact that you're excited to graduate is a bit crazy. Obviously I'm happy to graduate, but like it seems so uncertain after, so I feel like for me I'm more anxious than excited. There is a bit of excitement there, but I feel like I just feel too unsure to say, yeah, I'm happy to try something new when I don't really know what the new is going to be, if it's going to be better or worse. So
I feel like for us three, there's always going to be a bit of uncertainty when it comes to after graduation, because he's worked jobs. What?
And I'm saying a bit, a lot.
A lot.
Because
he's worked,
yeah.
sorry, because you've worked before. You worked before uni. You just told us about that. Although we have part-time jobs and although you have a part-time job and we've worked summer jobs, we've never really had a 9 to 5 that was all we had to worry about, because even during summer, we're thinking about school as well. So I feel like that's why
You're so right.
I do want to talk about that. It's so nice. I'm not gonna lie, that's one thing I missed. The summer camp, it was hell on earth, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'd start, work week would start Sunday morning at 5 a.m. maybe, because you'd have to go get the kids at the port, because it was like in the middle of nowhere. And then you'd get off Friday afternoon. And the Friday afternoon through the Sunday morning, me and my friend, we were making a bunch of money. We'd go stay at a hotel, just eat like animals because they were malnourishing us. I lost 5 kilos while I was working there in a span of like 8 weeks.
What?
It was rough. No, I'm not kidding, because they basically have us ration our food the same way we were rationing the food of 10-year-old kids. Like, look at me, I need food, you know? Like, so in any case, it was tough. But then having that like bliss, even when I was working my 9 to 5, just like being able to go home and separate, like, okay, that was my job. Now there's everything else I want to do and I want to take care of. Because, like, man, I'm still waiting. I don't know when this will come out, but, like, my strategy grade still hasn't come out. And there was very much a set deadline. But they were like, oh, we had an issue with our moderators. Man, get me my grade back. I'm done stressing over this.
Breathe.
I'm sorry. It's just, like, it's annoying because... Or having to do exams or study for exams or do assignments over a Christmas break. It's exhausting.
don't get your blood pressure.
I'm sorry, it is, but it is exhausting. It's like you're never really on a break. My break was from maybe like the 18th when I submitted, 18th of January, I submitted my last assignment, to the 27th when we start classes again. Like, that was 9 days. And other than that, you're constantly on the go. You're waiting for your next grade, your next assignment. You know, there's always the next something.
But I will say, I feel like for me, that's kind of like a double-edged sword in terms of it's good and bad, because I feel like things are constantly changing. So even if you're unhappy with something now, you know that it will change. Whereas like when you enter the workforce, that's, to an extent, that is your life for the foreseeable future.
Well, not really, because let's be honest, although we might think that the only thing after uni that's for us is a 9 to 5, there's so many different ways that you can make money, so many different careers that you can have.
That is very true.
Not to mention there's a ton of things you could do on the side. Like, I'm very much, my goal eventually down the line is, you know, have a family, have kids, and experience that. And I think that's like a whole other life. I've heard, you know, fathers in the past say it's just, you can never imagine what it's like to one day be a parent. And I think I would definitely want to be a parent. So that's like, I think there's a lot of different things to work towards. I want to say there's things to work with. There's so much outside of the work life that you can do, I want to say. And what's cool, I think, with the job as well is like this is something we haven't thought about in this way, I want to say, is, okay, yeah, 9 to 5, you're committed. Let's say that you want to stay at a company for at least 6 months because you don't want it to look bad in your resume if you leave earlier. We are committing to something for 3 years of our lives. That's a long time. Like, that's a long time to commit to anything. That's a long time to commit to a relationship, a job. And now university, we have to, so we can get our bachelor's degree, right? But we're all doing it. We're all still here, and God knows we're all going to make it to the end. Amen to that. Amen. And I think with that, it's like we'll be able to make it through the next phase of our life. Not to mention, you're not just going to stop living. Like, you've made it this far. This is what I tell myself. You made it this far. You're going to continue doing the things you have to do for survival, and getting a job is a means of survival. But if you can find a job where you get paid nicely, you really enjoy what you're doing, you enjoy what you're doing for the community, for yourself, or maybe a potential family in the future, like, that gives it so much value. I think community is a very important thing, and that's what's nice about university. But I'm sure there will be a lot of that in the workforce as well, because everybody's looking for a community.
But it's something that's so weird. Like, you like how you say, oh yeah, you're tired of the exams, you're tired of this, you're tired of that. But firstly, you're still going to do a master's, which is very funny.
Yeah.
So is that not kind of like hypocrisy? I don't know what to call that.
I'm tired, but it's also, I realize the benefit. I mean, for me, for the master's, I told you, like, I've applied to only top universities, and thankfully I've gotten some. And it's because I'm like, I know that this is something that will just help. I mean, it's. I want to say it's mostly. It's not just financial. It's more the positions to be able to get into. I won't be looking at entry level jobs when I come out of my master's, because I'll have maybe 2 years of work experience on my belt, plus this really, really good education. And I want the best for myself in the long term, and I think that will create the blueprint that I need for it. So I'm aware everything has a price. There's nothing comes easy in life. I don't think anything easy is ever going to be that good, to be honest with you. It needs to be challenging in some way, because it just kind of teaches you to appreciate it a bit more. And it's the challenge of that. But for me, for the master's, it's also like, I'm excited for that, to be honest with you. I'm excited. Yeah, sorry.
And then continue. So you're excited?
No, I'm excited for the opportunity to try something new, to try something in a different university, especially to be at like a really, really good university and kind of test what it's like with the practical projects, the hands-on experience, the internships it's going to allow me to do while I'm there as well. I'm really excited for that. Yeah.
Can I ask what masters you're doing?
So I've applied for the same masters at 2 universities. So it's called the SEMS Masters in International Management. It's not very well known, but then it's really highly ranked, and it's very interesting. So I've applied for it at the London School of Economics and at the National University of Singapore, which are 2 like top universities in the world, just really, really good all around. My idea was kind of like, if I'm going to apply for a master's and invest that much in one, like, it better be a good master's, Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. Otherwise, might as well get in the workforce, because I want to have an advantage for me when I go into the workforce. So both of these programs are based very much around like global business. It's quite corporate in a way, which I could maybe see myself getting into. Maybe I won't get into it. But in any case, they're these masters that allow me to travel. So with NUS, the National University of Singapore, I would do 3 countries in 18 months at 3 different universities. So I would start in Singapore, then maybe go to Nova Business School in Portugal, and then maybe Chile, or do Cornell in New York. They have some really, really good branches, but it's like a global, what's it called? A global alliance that they have, no, that's not it. They have just like a group across the globe of 33 different partner universities in different countries. And I think for me, it's gonna be such an eye-opening experience, because I'll experience different work cultures, different, social cultures as well. And just kind of all these different experiences which will amass so much for me and create such a positive outcome, I feel like. Yeah.
I think the reason why I asked you that is because I think I agree a lot with what you said about how a master's puts you in a very unique position as a graduate. But one thing that's holding me back from applying to masters is that they are so expensive. And like, if you're going to pay that much money, I want to be like completely certain that I'm studying something that I know I will use throughout my life. But like the way you've answered now, and you said how even beyond just the literal degree in education, the experience that the masters will give you, I feel like that's amazing. Honestly, like I feel like that is quite a unique masters and quite beneficial.
But thing was that I love education. Like I've said this already. I tutor. I love to teach. I love education. But for my masters, I really wanted to do a masters. I really, really did. But like I said, coming to university, I'm an international student as well. Coming to university after 3 years, I know what I've been through. I know the process. I know the strains of it. Yeah, there's just so much. There's just so much going on, and I'm like, even if I want to do a master's, how much more investment do I have to put in there, physically, mentally, and then the most painful thing financially is one aspect. Financially is the 50% aspect that can crush you. But then just imagine you're going through financial whatever, and you now have the whole mental thing. You're seeing some people that are lucky enough to get some people job offers from Deloitte, this one, that one, and you're not bad. You know you're good at what you do. You know you can do stuff to your capacity, but then you're just not lucky enough at, because I think I call it luck, or you're not just
serendipity.
Serendipity. Could you explain what serendipity is again?
So
actually?
from what I understand, it's kind of like almost being in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. So just that they were at the right place at the right time, or they were able to go through, they were able to do certain things that I know physically I wouldn't just do to go there. It mustn't be just, for example, I don't want to work at 9 to 8 p.m. Finance job. Finance was my first one because of the money they pay was beautiful. Everything there was beautiful. I know I can work in a 9 to 8, but I won't.
It's more about like the cost of your happiness. Almost, I want to say, like, is that extra money? Also, I talked to a friend about this, a close family friend. He was saying, like finance looks like it pays more on paper, but it's also because you might be working 11 to 12 hours a day as opposed to 9 to 5. So it's like, how much is it really benefiting you? Not to mention, finance is extremely cutthroat. I feel like everybody's kind of trying to make it to the top. And it's not necessarily because they have a passion for finance. It's because it's what there's the most money in. But are you really just going to spend the next, let's say, 40 years of your life dedicating yourself to jobs because there's the most money in it? Because that seems, it's not that it seems arbitrary. It completely makes sense. However, you want to also think about the other aspects of your life. Like, you can't deny how important a factor mental health is in our lives, as well as feelings of community and family and loved ones and friends and relationships and everything. And that's the thing with these like finance jobs. It's like, I don't know.
But the thing is, I guess it's the type of person you are. So I'm sure some people, a finance job is just for them. Some people, what's it called? A community job is community service is just for them. It's just, I feel like everyone should just find what you think is best for you. Not necessarily what you think is best for you. Try and weigh the cost, the benefits, the whole aspect of it in general, and then see, is this truly for me? And I feel like it's never too late to understand yourself. It's never too late to just go back. Like Rashad said, like he had a period where he wasn't able to finish his university education, right? At some point like that, and he came back to it. And look at him now; he's happy. He's doing he's doing his stuff. He's making what he couldn't do before. So I feel like this is for people that are around our age, or even older people that want to do a job change. I've heard of stories of people trying to change their jobs. They change. Even in the finance industry, some people were working in HR. They went to that finance place. Some people were what's it called, doing apprenticeships for mechanics, things like that, bricklayers, and now they're in that job. It's just, I don't think it's too late to ever find what is right for you. It's the pressure that comes with, looking around you like, my peers are doing this. Everybody's life is together. That is not true. No one's life is 100% together. It's just what you make of your life that is the important thing. And that's what I'm trying to do for myself. I'm trying to take it one step at a time. I know it's not the best outcome, but it's definitely getting me somewhere, and it's safer in my opinion.
I think it's the, what's it called? In that case, it's interesting, but the comparison is a thief of joy, to be honest with you. And I think we shouldn't really be looking at our peers. I think it's normal that we all have feelings of inferiority, just in that we want to be a better version of ourselves. From the moment you're born as a child, it's like, I'm seeing, like, I want to learn how to walk. I want to learn how to be self-sufficient, to do more for myself. And eventually it kind of carries you in a way, because your ambition carries you to grow in different ways, in different aspects of your life, be it professional or personal. But in any case, I think that everybody has something they can do to contribute to their own lives and contribute to a community. And I think it's really important that we all look for that. And we don't just give up on it because somebody else wants us to do something. Not to mention, I understand like external pressure is big and it's easier said than done, but you are the person living your own life at the end of the day. Nobody's living your life for you. So you really have to choose, like, okay, do I want to go down this path? Not to mention, I don't think we should really box ourselves in. I've done some of those random jobs, and a lot of them have been very interesting. They've brought about opportunities. I think, like, you can't be too rigid with what you want to do. You kind of have to explore. I think it's more process of elimination. It's like, have I enjoyed this? Would I do it again? What have I gotten out of this experience? Even if the experience isn't amazing on paper, or the exact job, or the super conventional one, or one of the big four consultancies, it's like, you can still get so much out of it and learn so much from it that will benefit you for the future. It's just, I think it's about perception as well, how you look at things, you know?
Yeah, Ivy, you want to say something about that, right? Please remember.
God.
I'll get it.
I'll get it. Give me 5 seconds.
No worries.
I feel as though for me, at the start of university, I was in the same boat as JP. I always thought that as soon as I finished my bachelor's, I would get my master's. Especially because when I first started looking at universities, I contemplated going to some American universities where it takes 4 years to get your bachelor's. And then I thought about it and I was like, if it takes 4 years to get my master's in the UK, I'll stay in the UK and I'll get my master's here. Now that I'm nearly at the end of university, at the end of my bachelor's, I cannot fathom going to get my master's. Like going
Sorry, that's funny. Actually,
going to get my master's, like you would have to drag me there. And that seems so crazy to me because up until November, I was so certain that I would get my master's. And then when it became time to apply for my master's, I was looking at all the different courses at the different universities that I would apply to. None of them were the same. None of them were alike. I was thinking of applying for master's in planning, town planning, urban planning. I was thinking of applying for master's in public policy. I was thinking of applying for master's in every single thing. And I was thinking, am I applying because I want to do this subject? Or am I applying because I just want a master's? And eventually I realized that it was the latter of the two. And once I got to that point, and once I realized that, I thought about it, and I realized that there's no point in me doing something just to do it. I should be passionate about it, and I should be smart about it, because it is something that you pay for. And I want to be one and done. I don't want to do my master's and then be like, oh, now I want another master's. No, when I get my master's, I want that to be it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I was there as well. I was so, I had a day where I just crashed out. I was like, what masters am I doing? What am I doing with my life next year? What is going on? And I think I kind of looked at these masters that were very, specialized, and I was like, this experience would be awesome. And that's why eventually I was like, I'm going to apply for this, and if I get through, good, and otherwise, life moves on. But I totally understand where you're coming from. So, yeah, what do you think about all this?
she's zoned out.
I think, my parents always ingrained in me, come on, degree, masters, a degree by itself means nothing. What's the point if you go to university if you're not even going to get a master's? Everyone has a degree, everyone has a bachelor's. But I think only recently this year did I start to kind of break free of, maybe I don't need to do a master's. Because I feel like I've just been in education for so long that I really don't know what life or what experience outside of education really looks like. I've done little part-time jobs and so, but I feel like my brain has suddenly just become boxed in the education mindset when it's I feel like my soft skills weren't there, which sounds crazy, but I just feel like because I'm so used to being in education and doing exams and whatever, what am I even saying? I just wasn't as developed as I thought I was, so I needed a break. And I do want to do a master's eventually, but just right now it's not for me.
I get that.
That's very true.
I feel like a lot of people, before they started their bachelor's, they decided to take breaks. I don't know a single person that I went to high school with, that I'm still friends with, that is in third year of university. I don't know a single person back home who's graduating this year. And some people might look at it and think, oh, you're ahead of them. I feel so jealous of them because they took their time to truly decide what to do. And I feel like that was a mistake I made when it came time for my bachelor's. And that's not a mistake that I want to make when it comes time for my master's. I want to take my time and really decide. And if that means taking a year off, 2 years off, 3 years off, I don't mind if it means that I appreciate the degree I get at the end much more.
But then, would you really call it a mistake? Do you regret being here?
I regret not taking a break.
But do you think, I think your ability to now recognize that the ability for you to recognize that you should have taken a break is growth. And would you have had that same growth had you taken a break?
Hindsight's 2020.
How do I say this? Don't get me wrong. I'm glad I learned my lesson.
Have you
But
learned
I
your
wish-
lesson?
I do wish that I learned my lesson earlier.
But I think for you specifically, like as your friend, I've known you for 2 years plus, literally. So I feel like you coming to university was not a mistake because of it
Definitely
tested your
not.
limits. It tested your limits.
Trials and tribulations.
Honestly, in fact, we were part of your trials and tribulations. I know there were some times we got on every single one of your nerves. So I feel like university, although it was not the best of experiences, it definitely molded you in some aspects. And now you can finally say, okay, let me take a break and understand the whole process that happened through university. And now I feel you won't regret anything out of it because of, to be fair, it's a win-win for you. It was a scholarship, right? It was a scholarship you got. Nothing left your pocket. You've escaped. Calm down, you've escaped. Literally.
Not the brain roar.
So, and also like I'm happy that you came because of we wouldn't have known you. I wouldn't have known it. Not too much now. So I learned a lot from you. So yeah,
I'm glad I'm here.
Honestly,
Not to mention, I don't think you kind of grow that much from, like, I don't want to say like taking time off, but I think it's the difficult things in a way that do make you grow. It's the challenges you face in life. And it's not just the challenges you face, because everybody's going to face challenges. You might, I don't know, fail an exam. You might have a bad breakup or something just happen in a friendship. But it's all about how you, I think, deal with the process afterwards, how you react to the situation. That says a lot about you as a person. And that's something that's going to change with time, the more challenges you.
Change is an important part of growth.
It is an extremely important part of growth, because how are you going to grow if there's nothing to grow from? You're not just going to grow because you're happy and there's dandelions growing all around you, which is a terrible example, but it's like you're not going to grow because everything in your life is perfect. You're going to grow because you're going to face difficulties. And no matter what situation you be in, like, yeah, you could have taken a break, but you would have found difficulties in the break as well, because life is never that easy. There's always going to be a difficulty in what you do and in finding yourself, whether it be introspection, university education, working 9 to 5, like there's always going to be issues.
But I will say that
see.
yeah, challenges are what push you to grow, but I think also having the time to actually reflect on your challenges and understand like what went wrong, even better if, is the growth part.
Yeah.
So if you're just facing challenge after challenge without actually giving yourself time to actually understand them, then you're not going to grow either.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And university, thankfully, did not kill us.
Not yet.
Did it make us stronger?
So it definitely made us stronger.
Say so. Do we want to move on to the next?
I think we're wrapping up now.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow.
But we've touched on some really interesting things today. This conversation went completely left to what I expected. Like, what did we get into? We got into like being optimistic about life.
Being pessimistic about life.
What life might be after uni.
What life might be after university.
Work.
Yeah. So, guys, if you enjoyed this little introduction to the Jubilee Times Open Seminar, I want to follow us on this journey of growing, understanding ourselves more. Make sure to subscribe, share this video, follow us on Instagram at The Open Seminar. We'd love to hear your thoughts and any topics you want to hear in the future.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Thank you.